In this video, I'll show you how to take your quote sandwiches and build a paragraph for your academic essay around them. First, just simply start by putting your quote sandwiches into your outline. Here are my quote sandwiches, and as you remember, they begin with an introduction to the source. I have a quote or paraphrase and then an analysis statement that explains what the quote, the significance of the quote is, or how it relates to my paragraph. So I've created 2 quote sandwiches for my paper. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to decide how these quote sandwiches relate to each other, and or what is the point that I'm trying to make with them. And that will actually become the topic sentence of my paper. So when I look at these, they're both about sadness and teenagers, and they're both about parents or parenting style. So I know that I want to create a topic sentence that makes a claim about parenting style and sadness. So, the obvious claim here is that there's something about the current parenting style that's contributing to this experience of sadness among teenagers. So I just write a little draft sentence to get me started. Current parenting practices may be contributing to teen sadness. Now, remember, I'm constructing a paragraph here, so I don't have to write everything in order, and that is not how I'm approaching it. I'm adding the elements that I know need to be there as I go. I know there needs to be a topic sentence, and I know that academic paragraphs also end with a closing sentence that repeats the idea in the topic sentence. The same thing happens, you'll recall, in your essay with the thesis statement. The thesis statement is the main claim of your whole essay, and you state that in both the introduction and the conclusion. Well, within your paragraph, you have a claim that you're going to present in that paragraph, and you explain that to your reader in the topic sentence, which works almost like a little mini introduction to your paragraph. And then you repeat that same claim, that same idea in your concluding statement, your closing sentence. You just word it a little differently. So you can expand on it a little bit, connect it a little bit more to your paragraph, but here I have reworded the same idea. I have my topic sentence says current parenting practices may be contributing to teen sadness, and down here, without meaning to, today's parents may be worsening the sadness of their teenagers' experience. So I've got the topic sentence, I've got my couple of quote sandwiches, and a closing sentence. And what I need to do next is these are the ideas I understand, but I need to explain these ideas to my reader. I did this reading, I took the notes, I've come to a certain understanding, but my reader didn't come along on that journey with me. So I need to come up with an example or an explanation in order to make my ideas clear to my reader. So I'm going to go ahead and add these examples and explanations. And because there is a structure and a rhythm to academic writing, I just need to add one example to support this quote sandwich. And I just need one to support the second quote sandwich. So this paragraph, my first quote sandwich, was about the pressure that parents can put on kids. And I was, trying to think of ideas about ways kids might feel pressure. And I thought about sports, but I'm not as, sports savvy. And then I thought, well, kids get a lot of pressure about going to college. So that was the example that I decided to use. So first I used the general statement, the idea that came from the expert that kids are feeling pressure from all the help their parents are giving them. So that idea is in my quote sandwich, and then I add the example. Then I move down to my next quote sandwich, and this one talks about overprotecting kids. So once again, I tried to say to myself, well, what's a way that parents try to overprotect kids? And I think there are lots of ways, but, I was thinking about how they don't want their kids' feelings to get hurt. So sometimes they, overcompensate. So that was the example that I decided on, talking about the way that, sometimes kids' feelings get hurt. So now I have really built up a solid structure for this paragraph, right? I have a topic sentence, a quote sandwich with an example, another quote sandwich with an example, and a closing sentence. Now, the next thing that I do need to do is add some transitions for my reader. Transitions are just like little road signs that help your reader understand how all these chunks of information are connected. So if I look at my first quote sandwich, it is my first main idea. So I can use the transition first. And then down here is my second, the current tendency. That's my second main idea. So I want to make sure that I have a little sign attracting my reader's attention, right? I want to say, okay, here's the second main idea. Because sometimes readers get lost or confused as you're going. Now this is an example. So the obvious transition is for example, because that lets my reader know, okay, you've introduced a point to me, and now you're giving me an example, and now you're introducing your second point to me, and now you're giving me a second example. So once we add those transitions, we're ready to combine all of this material together into one paragraph. And all we do is we just, put our cursor down and delete the spaces, the line breaks, and indent the first line, and we end up with one solid paragraph. Now, this paragraph might be a little longer than you anticipated, and if it is, don't trim it. Just leave it as it is, and remember that right now this is a draft. There are we're going to have opportunities to reread this, clean up the wording, make sure we don't have any extra ideas, make sure we've explained our ideas thoroughly, check for grammar and punctuation issues. I've already spotted some typos and punctuation problems in my own draft. But this is where we want to be in the writing process. We want to have a draft paragraph that we've built based on our quote sandwiches. And that's how to do that.